अजं निर्विकल्पं निराकारमेकं निरानन्दमानन्दमद्वैतपूर्णम् परं निर्गुणं निर्विशेषं निरीहं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजे माम्। नमस्ते, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Team Param Vedanta welcomes you all for the 21st session of Bhagavad Gita, verse by verse. We have completed the first half of Prathama Shatkam in detail until now. We learned about the samsara syndrome in the first chapter about Raga, Shoka and Moha. Arjuna has become the student and Krishna the Jagat Guru. In the second chapter, we get a glimpse of Gita in general, the complete Gita in general, with special emphasis on Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga sadhanas. Self-knowledge, as Krishna says, is the only curative remedy for the samsara syndrome, and pointers to that are found in the second chapter. In the third chapter, Krishna explains Karma Yoga in detail, which is an active sadhana, pravritti lakshana, and Jnana Yoga is explained in the fourth and the fifth chapters. Since Jnana Yoga is subtle, abstract, and seemingly difficult, Krishna explains this in two chapters, the fourth and the fifth. Fourth chapter is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga, and Shankara Bhashya calls this Brahma Yajna Prashamsa. We will have the first 6 verses in today's class, followed by the chanting of the verses led by Srimati Arunaji. Over to Dr. Komal Prasad for the recap of the very beautiful Manisha Panchakam that we studied in the last class. To Dr. Komal Prasad, sir.
Thank you. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. In the last session, we saw Manisha Panchakam, a group of 5 verses dealing with the subject of Manisha, which means conviction or a firm understanding. It's the Nishchaya Gnanam. What is that conviction Shankaracharya was referring to? The conviction is that the character and wisdom are the things which determine the value of a person. Vedantic wisdom is the only determinant and not any other worldly accomplishments. According to Shankara, wisdom is knowledge of Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikyam. That's the essential oneness of individual self and the universal self. Person with this knowledge is a wise person and he is adorable. With regards to his adorability, I have total conviction. This is the gist of this work by Shankara. A firm understanding or a conviction is necessary in our lives, particularly in today's world, where we are bombarded every day with conflicting views about what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad. Shankara's conviction gives a clear direction for the seeker of truth, one direction towards which we must move. The rest all is secondary. When Shankara was touring in Kashi, Lord Shiva is supposed to have come in his way in the form of a Chandala, a seemingly uncultured person, a Prakruta Purusha. The story goes that Adi Shankara for a moment forgot his wisdom and got identified with his body. His immediate reaction was, Gacha, Gacha, do not come in my way. Then Lord Shiva asks him 2 questions. Do you want to separate your body from mine, or do you want to separate my consciousness from your consciousness? Which one do you want to separate? Clarify. Then Lord Shiva says, whatever may be your answer, it shows your confusion. If you say you want to separate this body from that body, it's not a good thing because all bodies are made up of same material, chemicals, panchabhutas. Therefore, you cannot differentiate these 2 bodies. If you are talking about separation of Atma Chaitanyam, then it is wrong since there is only one Chaitanyam. Adi Shankara wakes up to his wisdom and declares these 5 verses. He says, whoever has this wisdom is adorable, and hereinafter I won't say, go away. In the next slide, we see the Mahavakyas. This plaque is from Mahavakya Mandira, which is at Sandipani Ashrama at Mumbai. In the first 4 verses of Manisha Panchakam, Shankaracharya brings out the essence of Mahavakyam occurring in the 4 Vedas. Mahavakya is any statement which brings out the essential oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma. This is what makes this work popular. Commentators say that each one of the first 4 verses of Manisha Panchakam was written keeping in mind the 4 important Mahavakyas. The 5th verse is a conclusion, Falashruti. Each verse is a deep and significant verse bringing out entire Vedantic teaching, which declares the essential oneness of consciousness and matter. Chaitanyam gives sentiency is the first lesson. Then next comes Chaitanyam Sarvagatam. Chaitanyam is all pervading. The final lesson of Advaita Vedanta is Chaitanyam Satyam. Consciousness alone is Sat Chit Ananda. We see in the next slide that the first verse is based on the Mahavakya Prajnanam Brahma from the Rig Veda. Jagrat Swapna Sushuptisu Sfutatara Ya Sambit Ujrumbate. That one consciousness which shines in all beings in wakeful, dream, and deep sleep states, right from Brahma to the Ant. That one consciousness which is the witness to all the worldly activities, that Jagat Sakshini, Sa Eva Aham, I am that and not what I perceive. Whosoever has this firm conviction, whether he is a Chandala or a Dvija, is as adorable to me as my Guru. This is my firm conviction. Esha Manisha Mama. In the next slide, we see verse 2. I am Brahman. This universe is consciousness alone, fully projected. Everything, without exception, is born of Maya Shakti by the play of 3 gunas, Chinmatra Vistaritam, and are imagined by me, Maya Kalpitam. Aham Brahmasmi Mahavakya from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad of Yajurveda is highlighted here. Whosoever has this firm conviction, he is as adorable as my Guru. In the next slide, the 3rd verse, Shankara hints about the 3rd Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi, Mahavakya from Chandogya Upanishad of Samaveda. The importance of Guru Upadesha about Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam is said here. In the 4th verse in the next slide, the Mahavakya, I am Atma Brahma from Mandukya Upanishad of Atharva Veda is highlighted. The unreal covers the real. The illumined organs cover the illuminator consciousness. Just as the sun is covered by illumined clouds, we see cloud, imagine things, and miss the very fact that we are able to see the cloud and its shape only because of the illuminator sun, which is hidden by the cloud itself. In the same way, when I am looking into my mind, there are 2 things happening, thought and the consciousness behind it. Thoughts of fear, jealousy, depression, happiness, and consciousness is also there. But this light of consciousness is taken for granted. We never identify and own up that consciousness since we are always bothered about our thoughts in the mind. In the next slide, we see the concluding 5th verse, which concentrates on Ananda, bliss, Brahmananda aspect of Satchitananda. Wise person's mind is immersed in Brahmananda. Yasmin Nitya Sukambudho Galita Dihi. Galita means fallen. His mind is fallen in Brahmananda, meaning it has become one with Brahmananda. Wise man who has owned up Brahmananda is no more Brahmagnani, not Brahmavid, but he is Brahmeva, he is Brahma himself from the standpoint of consciousness. He does not identify with the mind, but he identifies with the consciousness. For him, the experiential, the Vishayananda happiness is a reflected photocopy of Brahmananda, the original happiness. So for him, if there is Vishayananda, it is a bonus. When it's there, he will enjoy. When it goes away, he does not cry. And that state is called moksha. Such a Jivan Mukta is Surendra Vandita Pada. His feet are adorable even to Indra. Similarly, after Vedantic wisdom, when we continue to live in this world, after owning up to our real nature as consciousness, we live in freedom as a Jivan Mukta. As spiritual seekers, as seekers of truth, Shankara's Manisha Panchakam shows us the only conviction worthy in our lives, to value the knowledge, the truth, the Vedantic wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Komal. That was a brilliant summary of that jewel of Vedanta, Manisha Panchakam, that has been given to us. Incidentally, there's a picture of Dr. Komal at Dolmala, at the peak of the parikrama for Kailash. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. As Dr. Ahalya introduced, this is a great opportunity for all of us to study once again this most wonderful 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is wonderful in so many ways. In the beginning verses itself, you will see the greatness of the Gita, or the Gita Stuti, which we will see in the first class. Nowhere in the Gita the role of Avatara or the knowledge about Avatara is given. Beginning from the 6th verse, which we will not the 6th verse today. 6th verse is important for something else. If you understand about the Avatara, you will realize, if you understand the Rahasya of the birth and the complete knowledge of God, which brings about a form of God realization, which is also self-realization. That is another wonderful aspect of this chapter. Perhaps the title of this chapter is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And that I will give a little orientation to what is Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Right from the 2nd chapter, we have been studying about Karma Yoga. Very beautifully elaborated in the 3rd chapter. Here we come to the pinnacle of Karma Yoga to understand what is Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Let us first understand the title itself, because if you know what the title of this chapter is, maybe well begun, half the battle won. There are 2 types of sannyasa. One is called Vividisha Sannyasa. How would you remember this? This person is vividly a sannyasi because he's got the ochre robe. There is a change. The person has quit the society. He has become a monk. Once he has become a monk, there are no more responsibilities. He has given up all forms of duties. So the sannyasa is here for karma, whether it is religious or secular. In the ancient days, there were a lot of ritualistic yajnas. So now he does not go near fire. Such a process is called, such a name is called a niragni. So there is a physical renunciation, an external renunciation. And among the 4 ashramas, Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, the person has reached the 4th state of sannyasa. This is called Vividisha Sannyasa or Karma Sannyasa. Krishna does not recommend that. Krishna recommends something else, what is called Vidvat Sannyasa. Vidvat Sannyasa is difficult, but the beauty of Vidvat Sannyasa is it is the only permanent solution. It requires what we have been doing all along. It requires the process of Jnana Yoga, which comes after eligibility, after Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, through Shravanam, Mananam, with Nidityasanam, through Vedanta Vichara. Once I understand my true nature, then something magical happens. We continue to do whatever we do, whatever ashrama or whatever responsibilities we have. But how do we do it? With the sense of it is being done. There is no sense of I am doing it. So this renunciation is not an external renunciation because our roles will continue, but mental renunciation has happened. Primarily because of the change in understanding of my true nature, which is based on Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya. From now on, we are anchored on the higher I. And once we have accomplished to that understanding, the next thing follows is there is nothing to do, there is nowhere to go, there is no specific agenda. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. And that makes life so much more comfortable. It makes life so much more effortless. Life now becomes a Leela, a game. And whatever responsibilities I have, I allow it to happen without a sense of doership. Very much like an actor playing a role on the stage as per the instructions of the director, doing it 100%, but all the time knowing that I am not my role. And therefore, although I role play, there is no feeling of remorse. There is the nice word is asanga. I'm totally detached from whatever I am. And that helps me to play the role better. This is clearly what is Jnana Karma Sannyasa. Now, Swamiji has said it is renunciation or sannyasa of action, that is karma, through knowledge, through jnana. So I am not stopping my role. Whatever I have to do, I continue like before. And the nice example is imagine that you have sold your house, but you continue to live here. Now, what is the house that you have sold? This body, mind, which I dwell in. Now I have surrendered to the Lord. I'm now a custodian. I do take care of it, but I know this body, mind has been lent to me and it is not me. And that sense of ownership is gone. We can see jnana, karma, sannyasa through certain terms that we are familiar with. First, remember, it is renunciation of action through wisdom by continuing to do action, but there is no sense of I am doing it. There is no ownership. This is also called vidvat sannyasa. It is also a shift from the triangular format to the binary format. With this understanding, we will understand what is inaction in action. That is the key aspect of the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Of course, there are many, many beautiful verses. And one of the most beautiful verses which we would like to take on from the 4th chapter for the rest of our life is Brahmarpanam Brahmahari. After the understanding of this verse, it is now as significant for me as Pratibodha Vidita Mata. This Brahmarpanam Brahmahari is not only something that we do each time we eat food, but Brahma Karma Samadhinaha. For that person who sees Brahman in every action, Brahmaiva Tena Gantavyam is the one who attains to Brahman. We begin the opening verse by Dr. Sachin. Over to you, Dr. Sachin.
Hari Om, Om Gurubhyo Namaha. This verse goes like this. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ikshvakave Bravit. The simple meaning is, the blessed Lord said, I imparted this eternal yoga to Lord's son, and Lord's son taught this to Manu. In turn, Manu taught it to Ikshvaku. In the next slide, we see that this verse is important in few things. As we all know, these first 3 verses are for Gita glory. And the next 5 verses till the 8th verse of this chapter is about Avatara Rahasyam. Everyone will agree to me that Gita is nothing but the condensation of Vedas themselves. As in the next slide, we see the Dhyana Shloka 4. It goes, Sarva Upanishado Gavo Dogda Gopala Nandana Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta Duktam Gitamrutam Mahat. So it is very well said that the Upanishadic cow, which has been milked by none other than Gopala Nandana, Krishna, for whom Partha, that is Arjuna, and Sudhir Bhokta, the pure-minded people, the Satsangi like us. And what do they get? The Gita Amruta, the nectar of Gita, that is the knowledge to liberate oneself. And also in the end of every chapter, we have seen that we sing this shloka, Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadasu. So this reminds us the glory of Gita. In the next verse, next slide, we'll see that even in the beginning of this entire universe or for the creation, Lord Vishnu had given the Gita to Brahmaji. And from then, Gita has been taught in the form of, now it is Gita, before it was Upanishad. Next slide, please, sir. In this verse, Aham Yogam Proktavan. Lord has given same teaching before in the name of Vedas. Yogam stands here for Jnana Yoga. And Bhagavan says, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktaham. I had given it before to long before. It is not a new understanding. It is an understanding which was given far, far before. Even before Krishna said to Arjuna. In the next slide, we see that in the lighter version, Swamiji here explains that just when the buyer has to be interested, the seller will come with a different version of the same product, as Surf will come as Surf Excel. And we see that the Upanishad has been brought out in the form of Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna to Arjuna. In the next slide, Vivasvate Proktavan. So Vivaha here means Annam, or the energy source. Vivasvan means energy source. This teaching was given to Surya Bhagwan by Lord Krishna, and the teaching which is never going to be obsolete. And the teaching was about what? Avyayam, the eternal yoga, and it is having never the beginning nor the end. It is Sanatanaha. With the small example in the next slide, we'll see what does this Vivaha means. Now you take an example of Surya Bhagwan. We all know Surya Bhagwan does his duties daily, effortlessly, for maintaining the cycle of evaporation, then condensation, and then precipitation. So we can see that what does evaporation actually mean? In the Vedic form, a small matter is changed into different matter. So this property we can name as Karma Yoga. We have to have self-efforts. And then the self-effort should assimilate, just as the clouds assimilate in the sky. And this is your Upasana Yoga. Can you change one slide, sir? So Upasana Yoga is next. And then once you get the grace of Lord himself, this Upasana Yoga will convert into Jnana Yoga. So the raindrops will meet the rivers. And finally, all the rivers will meet the ocean. So it is Aham Brahmasmi. You merge into the highest. In the next slide, please, sir. So this is nothing but the eternal teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And after Vivaswan, this was taught to Manu. Surya Bhagwan taught it to Manu. We all know through Manu, we all have descended, the Manavas. And Manu gave it to Ikshvakave, the Ikshvakave dynasty, the Surya dynasty. Generally, there are two traditions, Kshatriya Parampara and Brahmana Parampara. That is how we will get any knowledge from the past. And Krishna, Arjuna were from the Kshatriya Parampara. That's how we got this knowledge which was taught in the war. And what is the knowledge? The knowledge is Avyayam, eternal. Thank you, sir. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Sachin, for a nice explanation of the opening verse which brought out the greatness of the Gita, or the Gita Stuti. Now we know that the Gita is not just Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvada, but it is what has been taught earlier, or it is the essence of all the Vedas. In addition, you brought your own creativity. I do appreciate your creativity, but in general, we are as close as possible to the teachings of Swamiji. And whenever a person brings one's own creativity, I would like to point out that this is this aspect, that it is how Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga, Jnana Yoga is brought out, is the ideas of Dr. Sachin. Those of us who studied the Mundaka Upanishad will also see how the Mundaka Upanishad begins with a similar parampara. Om Brahma Devanam Pratama Sambhavuva Vishwasya Karta Bhuvanasya Gupta Sa Brahma Vidyaya. The basis of all knowledge, which is Brahma Vidya, was given from Brahmaji to his Jeshta Putra Atharva. So the Upanishads also begin by giving us this parampara, and that is what we have seen in the opening verse of the 4th chapter. The second verse will be explained to us by Vani Bhaskar. Over to you, Vani.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse is Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshayo Viduhu Sakalena Mahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa. So let us go to the word meanings. Evam, in this way, Parampara Praptam, handed down from generation to generation. Imam, this Rajarshayo, the kings who are sages, Viduhu, knew. Parantapa, Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Parantapa, the destroyer of the enemies. Mahata Kalena Saha, due to long passage of time. Yogo Nashtaha, that yoga is lost. So the verse explains, Evam Parampara Praptam. This knowledge that is the knowledge of the self, is transmitted from generation to generation, from guru to shishya, or father to son, parents to children. So it has been transmitted in an unbroken lineage, at the source of which is Lord himself. Lord Krishna says he taught this in the beginning. Swami Paramarthananda compares this flow of knowledge from generation to generation to the flow of the mother river Ganga. In our tradition, river Ganga is looked upon as Jnana Ganga, the flow of knowledge. We know Ganga is a perennial river. Similarly, this knowledge is also perennial. We know Ganga flows from the head of Lord Shiva, and we know that this knowledge also comes from the Lord himself. We chant, even during the satsangs, we chant Sadashiva Samarambam, Shankaracharya Madhyama, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Parampara. So we offer our salutations to this Guru Parampara. But we know the source of this knowledge is the Lord himself. Ganga removes all the impurities. Likewise, the dip in Gita Ganga removes all the impurities of samsara. So Krishna advises in chapter 18 that everyone should read at least one verse of Gita every day. Rajarshayo Viduhu, the royal sages, knew this knowledge or yoga. The teaching came down, as Dr. Sachin mentioned, through families of kings and also rishis. The kings were Kshatriyas who had huge responsibilities of taking care of their kingdom. In spite of their busy schedules, they found time to pursue this knowledge. They studied this knowledge, pursued this knowledge to gain this knowledge, because they knew this was the ultimate, this was the truth. In the previous verse also, we saw Lord Krishna giving this knowledge to Vivaswan, that is the Lord son, and then son is giving to his son, that is Manu, Manu is giving to Ikshvaku. So these are all Rajas, the kings, Kshatriyas, but they wanted this knowledge because they knew this was the ultimate. A king who knew this knowledge was called Rajarshi. In fact, in many Upanishads also we see many of the teachers and students are Kshatriyas. And in Ashtavakra Gita, we see King Janaka is a prepared student. So Swamiji, our Swamiji says, where there is a will, there is a way. The next line says, Shri Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Parantapa, the destroyer of the enemies. Sa kalena mahata yogo nashtaha Parantapa. This wisdom or knowledge declined or degenerated over long passage of time. Lesser and lesser number of people were interested in this knowledge because people were busy with many other things. There were too many Duryodhanas in the people, and people never had time for this knowledge. So Krishna is telling this to Arjuna so many thousands of years back. And now we can imagine people with so much of distractions and so much of other things, many other things, they do not have time for this knowledge. The problem is with the humans. The essential teaching remains the same. There are various reasons for this knowledge to degenerate. Like the rituals can overtake the predominant spirituality, or politics may come into play, or greed enters religion. So Krishna says he has to revive this knowledge time and again. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Vani, for a nice explanation of the second verse. You introduced this whole parampara. There is a word for Arjuna, Parantapa. Param here means the enemy. Tapa means the one who burns the enemy. Like we have Tapatraya. You also brought out the two paramparas. The normal Guru Shishya parampara we know is Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vashishtam Shaktim Chapa Parascharaya Vyasam Sukham Gaudapadam Govinda Yogendra Shri Shankaracharya, and so on. We go to the next verse by Dr. Satyanarayana. Over to you, Satya.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse is Sa evayam mayatyadya yoga prokta puratanaha bhakto si me sakha cheti rahasyam hetad uttamam. Going by the word meanings, Sa eva ayam mayatadya, the very same ancient by me unto you today, Yoga Prokta Puratanaha, taught the very old science of yoga. Bhakta Asime Sakha Cha Iti, you are my devotee and also friend. Therefore, Rahasyam Iti Etad Uttamam. This is certainly a highest secret. The verse meaning is, the very same ancient yoga is this which has been taught by me to you now, because you are my friend and devotee. This indeed is the highest secret. Next slide. Veda can be divided into two parts, Veda Purva and Veda Anta. Veda Purva teaches Karma Yoga, gives purity and is also called as Karma Kandam. Whereas Veda Anta teaches Jnana Yoga, gives wisdom and is also called as Jnana Kandam. Vedas are most ancient teaching. Vedic rishis did not invent this. Even they say they got this wisdom from their guru and their gurus in turn from theirs, which means the beginning can never be traced. Next slide, sir. And why did Krishna choose Arjuna? Krishna chose Arjuna because Arjuna asked for it. In the second chapter, we can recall Arjuna telling, I am your disciple, please tell me. Arjuna had the best rapport with Krishna as well as profound reverence for him, so much so that Arjuna confided his fear to him in the first chapter, something that Kshatriya would hesitate to do. Arjuna also had courage to ask any doubt without any fear of reprimand, and in doing so, gets a clear understanding of the teachings. Krishna says, you are my disciple, you are my friend, you are ready to listen to me, and therefore I decided to give out this wisdom. When a friend is about to commit a mistake, it is our duty to show the right path. Krishna finds Arjuna fit and capable to receive this knowledge. Whoever received this knowledge needed to be capable of communicating it to others. Lord Krishna says that it is his responsibility to protect and preserve this wisdom by choosing to be Guru to Arjuna, who has been chosen as a representative of humanity, and then present this Gita. Next slide, sir. Secrecy in the world is maintained for two reasons. It could be due to selfishness in keeping the truth to oneself, or to protect the abuse of knowledge. The science of yoga remains a secret not for either of these reasons, but because it requires qualification to be understood. That qualification is revealed in this verse as devotion. The deep message of Gita is not amenable to being understood merely by mastering Sanskrit language or by attending classes. It requires devotion, which destroys subtle envy of the soul toward God and enables us to accept the humble position as his tiny part. The greatest secret is whatever we are searching for in life happens to be within ourselves. Individuals do not look within, but search all over. Without the devotional heart, one cannot truly grasp the message of Bhagavad Gita. If you do not have devotion, you cannot comprehend the true import of supreme science. Next slide, sir. Many commentators believe that 108 verses, starting from verse 11 of chapter 2, where the proper Gita teaching starts, to this shloka comprise the entire message of Gita. Krishna has taught about Sankhya Yoga, Dharma, Karma Yoga, Sthita Prajna, and Jnana Yoga. They say that Krishna essentially completed the entire teaching and stopped speaking, having provided Parampara as the conclusion. The remaining part of Gita is an exploration of the teachings packed into these 108 verses, and it is Arjuna who helps us dig deeper into these teachings. This well-timed and thoughtful questions like the one we will see in the next verse. Hari Om.
Thank you, Satya, for a nice explanation of this verse and also bringing out the significance of this verse as the 108th teaching verse of the Bhagavad Gita. You also nicely brought about 2 points. One is about the Rahasya word. The real secret will be revealed to one who has bhakti. And that is why bhakti is so important to be able to realize the secret. You will see this word Rahasyam comes elsewhere in the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter. Idam tute guhyatamam prabhakshyami. I will teach you. And once you get this secret, he says, Jnanam Vijnanam Sahitam Yat Jnatva Mokshase Ashubhat. You will be free from anything that is inauspicious. Towards the end, the last teaching verse is the Charama Shloka of the Bhagavad Gita, is the 66th verse of the 18th chapter. 66th verse. And Krishna is building up to it, where he is again revealing, I'm going to give you the greatest secret. And you know what is the greatest secret? You will see it is none other than Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. Because in the 66th verse, he is going to say, Sarva Dharman Parityakya. Give up everything. And it has been interpreted that dharma is actually karma. Give up all karma. How to give up karma? It is only through the binary format. It is through jnana karma sannyasa. It is through inaction and action. So this is highlighted in the culminating. And he says, this is the secret. What is the secret? And if you will realize, if you are able to study the Bhagavad Gita, you realize that we are not ordinary. Because of the avarana shakti of Maya, we are not able to see our real selves and we project a false selves. We are not human beings having an occasional spiritual experience, but Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta will help us to reveal we are actually spiritual beings who have forgotten our true nature. Verse 44.4, fourth verse, Dr. Vikram Gudate, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. The verse 4.5, Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma Param Janma Vivasvateha Katam Etat Vijaniyam Tva Madhav Prokta Vaniti. So Arjuna asked, your birth is later. The birth of Lord Sun is much earlier. How am I to understand this statement of yours that you have taught Lord Sun in the beginning of the creation? So in the previous 3 verses, Krishna had talked about the glory of the Gita. The glory is that it is a condensed Vedic wisdom. That is why it is called Smriti. The original scripture, the Veda, is called Shruti because it is heard by rishis during their meditation. It was heard from Lord. Heard means internally heard. And now we are going to enter the next topic in the diversion, which is going to be based on Arjuna's question. When Arjuna heard this much, he got a big doubt. The doubt is based on Krishna's statement. What is that? I taught this wisdom to Surya Bhagwan at the time of creation, at the beginning of the creation. And then Krishna said, I myself am teaching this same wisdom to you also. Now Arjuna's doubt, hey Krishna, I can understand you teaching me, but when you say you have taught Surya Bhagwan in the beginning of the creation, I'm not able to swallow that statement because I know you were recently born to Devaki and we are almost of the same age. That is why we are able to be friends also. How can you be the teacher of Surya Bhagwan? There is chronological discrepancy and therefore you must be bluffing. No doubt I am confused, but you cannot just because I am confused, you cannot get away with any statement. This is Arjuna's question. Arjuna Uvacha, he asked, so hey Krishna, Bhavataha Janma Aparam. Your birth is very recent, within this century, within 100 years certainly only. Aparam here means recent, whereas Vishwataha Janma Param. So the birth of Vishwaswan, Surya Bhagwan, is Param. Param means millennium before, not even centuries, but millennium before, because this is supposed to be beginning of the creation. So then, Katam Etat Vijaniyam, how am I to reconcile your 2 statements? What are the 2 statements? That I am that Lord is teaching Arjuna now, and also you yourself taught Surya Bhagwan before. Tvam Adau Proktavan, that you are teaching me now, there is no question, because it is seen now. But what I am not able to accept, Tvam Evam Adau Vishwataha Proktavan, that you yourself are Surya's Guru, that I cannot assimilate. Therefore, tell me, what is the meaning of that statement? As an answer to this question alone, Krishna is going to introduce the topic of Avatara in the next verse. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vikram. a nice and a crisp explanation of the fourth verse, where now Krishna has, Arjuna has a doubt about Krishna. And you will remember that in the third chapter, when Arjuna asked the question about the choice between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, Krishna answered, Lokesmin Dividanishta Pura Prokta, long back, long before I have introduced this. So you will see that is the first time, and this is the second occasion in which he is introducing himself. So the next verse will be explained to us by Dr. Meenal. Dr. Meenal, please.
Sri Krishna tells Arjuna in the first verse, which Dr. Sachin just presented to us, that he taught the same wisdom to Surya Bhagwan in form of Veda. And now he's teaching the same wisdom in form of Gita to Arjuna. This creates a doubt in Arjuna's mind, and therefore he asked this question in the previous verse, which Dr. Vikram Hood had just told us, that how can Krishna be Surya Bhagwan's guru? Krishna's birth is recent and Surya Bhagwan's was years and eons ago. So from this verse, that is verse number 5 up to verse number 8, Shri Krishna answers Arjuna's question. And by way of answering Arjuna's question, Lord Krishna is introducing the topic of Avatara, which is a unique concept in Vedic tradition. Avatara is Lord's incarnation, which is different from human birth. When a human being is born, we call it birth or Janma. But when Lord appears in the creation, we call it incarnation or Avatara. There are three main differences between Manusya Janma and Ishwar Avatara: Karan Bhed, Swarupa Bhed, and Uddesha Bhed. Let us first see Karan Bhed, which is difference at the level of cause. For a jiva, the janma or birth is due to ahankar, due to ego, resulting from karma and karma phalam. It is due to ignorance. So the cause of human birth is ignorance or avidya, and Manusya is born ajnanat. While in case of Ishwara's case, the cause is because of his sarva jnanatvam, omniscience. So an avatara is born jnanat. Avatara's birth is compassion-based, knowledge-based, conscious, a deliberate descendance among the jivas. While in case of a jiva, the birth is actually a fall due to his ignorance and ego. The second difference is Swarupa Bheda, which is difference at the level of nature. Manusya is a samsari, while Ishwara is a asamsari. He is a nitya mukta swarupa. Jiva Shariram is bhautik, that is, it is made up of 5 elements, the Pancha Bhutas, which are derived from Maya, while Ishwara Avatara Shariram is called Mayika Shariram, because Maya does not go through the intermediary stages of 5 elements and directly gets converted into Ishwara Avatara Shariram. The third difference is Uddesha Bhed, which is difference at the level of purpose. The purpose of Jiva Janma is Punya Papa Kshayam, exhaustion of Punya and Papam. For Ishwara, there is no ego, no ahankar. So there is no question of Papa and Punyam. The purpose is protection of Dharma and destruction of Adharma, as we will be seeing in the upcoming 8th verse. So the Ishwar Avatara Uddesh is to protect dharmic people by destroying adharmic people, that is Dharma Rakshanam, to protect and bless the world, which is Loka Anugraha. Since Avatara is not restricted by ignorance, the Avataras know the past, present, as well as the future. They are Sarvadnyaha. Therefore, Krishna, being an Avatara, knows all his previous incarnations, whereas in case of Arjuna, ignorance limits the jiva, and therefore Arjuna cannot know the past or the future janmas, as he is a Alpadnyanaha. Swami Paramarthananda ji says we do not actually require to know an avatara for our spiritual growth, as spiritual growth requires purity or chitta shuddhi, which will come by following bhakti and karma yoga. Chitta shuddhi gives us jnana yogyata, and knowledge or jnanam will come by studying scriptures under a guru. After attaining jnanam, one can be free, one can attain moksha. So in the ladder of spiritual growth, knowing an avatara is not essential or necessary, because even Krishna himself, being an avatara, could not give moksha directly to Arjuna. It became possible only by Arjuna's bhakti and by the knowledge imparted by Shri Krishna as his guru. So we should purify, learn, know, and be free. With this background, let us read the 5th verse of 4th chapter. श्रीभगवानुवाच बहुनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्त परन्तप. Krishna says, Hey Arjuna, bahuni janmani me cha tava vyatitani. Many janmas have gone by me and you. That is, you have taken many janmas. I have also taken many sharirams. And what is the difference between Arjuna and Krishna? Krishna says, Aham tani sarvani veda. I continue to be a free person. I continue to be a sarvadnyaha. Therefore, I know all the past sharirams. And what about you, Arjuna? Tvam na veta he parantapaha. O Arjuna, you do not know your past sharirams. So in this verse, answering Arjuna's question raised in the previous verse, Krishna says, O Arjuna, many births of mine as well as yours have gone by. I know them all, but O Arjuna, you do not know. Thank you very much. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Meenal. That was a nice explanation of Krishna's answer to Arjuna's question. And we have had now a clear understanding of the difference between a jiva and an avatara in the nice table that you showed. The next verse will be by Dr. Sandhya Ravi. Over to you, Dr. Sandhya.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Hari Om. So, having introduced the topic of avatara, as Dr. Meenal just explained, Sri Krishna now describes the nature of the avatara. This verse says, Ajo pisan avyayatma bhutanam ishvaro pisan prakritim swamadishtaya sambhavam yatma mayaya. Although I am unborn, the Lord of all living entities, and have an imperishable nature, yet I appear in this world by virtue of Yoga Maya, my divine power. Now, this is an important shloka in the Gita, because here Sri Krishna reveals himself as Ishvara, as the master of all beings. He wills himself or manifests himself into existence by controlling Prakriti, which is made up of the three gunas. He says he is not born into this world like an ordinary human being. Next, so what is the difference between his birth and that of the other beings? Now, in the case of a jiva, the human beings, one's birth and death is driven by Prakriti, and it's determined by karma, as we know. So we are compelled by the force of nature. Avasham Prakriti Vashat, as stated in verse 8 of chapter 9. So the ego is subject to the law of karma, and we are helplessly, we go through the cycle of birth and death. So this is the plight of the jiva. But what about Ishvara? How does he manifest? Next, the appearance and disappearance of the Lord. Next slide, sir. The appearance and the disappearance of the Lord, though, is on a totally different footing. He manifests through his own power, that is Atma Mayaya, through his free will, Swa Icha. Although declaring himself to be Ajaha, unborn, birthless, and Avyayatma, imperishable, deathless, he appears to be taking birth and dying just as a human being. But the deluded jivas fail to recognize that God is in his earthly disguise. We only see the outward human body and we don't see the divine within people. This is because his creative power is veiled by Yoga Maya. So he's not revealed to all, as he himself declares in verse 25 of chapter 7. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudo yam nabhijanati loko mamajamavyayam. So the entire universe is part of the supreme person known as Ishvara, who is the controller of this universe, and he's the most powerful entity in the existence. So to state a few analogies, we know that there are trillion cells in the human body. Each cell works independently, but together they serve the entity called the single entity called the human body. Similarly, there are many waves in the ocean, but they're all part of this single gigantic entity called the ocean. Similarly, we are like the waves that derive our power from the ocean called Ishvara. and the power of Ishvara can be seen in the laws of nature. The word Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya. The word Prakritim with the adjective Swam stands for primordial nature, and the word Atma Maya denotes Yoga Maya and the divine potency or transcendental power. While we Jivas are usually under the control of Prakriti, that is the three gunas, Ishvara controls the Prakriti and with his power. So Jiva and Ishvara, we have to understand, are nothing but the eternal essence. So just like the wave is part of the ocean, we Jivas are also part of this entity called the Ishvara. So when the eternal essence identifies with the finite body, it is called the Jiva. When it identifies with the entire universe, it's called the Ishvara. Now let's look at the concept of avatara or manifestation. It was nicely explained by the previous speaker. It is manifested, the next slide, sir. It is manifested in response to a situation. When the situation arises, it manifests, and when it ends, it disappears. So Ishvara has the ability to manifest at any time, anywhere, in any form, and then disappear too. He can expand, as we saw in Vamana Avatara, to assume a great proportion or shrink to a very small size. The manifestation can be a very short-lived one, like even a thought in a person's mind. It could be a long one, like the Krishna Avatara. So to conclude, what does Sri Krishna says? Swam Prakritim Adhishtaya. By establishing in my own nature, Aham Sambhavami, I come into being. How? Through Yoga Maya, with the Maya Tattva, taking the Mayika Shariram as opposed to the Bhautika Shariram. That is, without the intervention of the five elements. So the Puranas talk about several avatars. Swami Param says Narasimha Avatara, Krishna Avatara, all of which don't actually talk of, Bhagavan taking birth in the ordinary way. But these are only a small subset of the countless avatars that can take place over time. So an avatara is like a rain-bearing cloud. It materializes out of thin air, does its work, and quietly disappears. So when and with what motive does the Lord appear? Does he manifest himself? That is what we are going to see in the next two verses. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhya, for a nice explanation of this very important sixth verse, where there is Krishna giving a clear difference between what a jiva and an avatara is, because Krishna is aware about Maya, and Maya is the glory of Ishvara. But for us as jivas, Maya has an ability to cover our essential nature. And therefore, because of the Avarana Shakti, we are limited or we are ignorant of our true self. The bigger problem is Vikshepa Shakti, and because of the Vikshepa Shakti, we tend to identify with the instrument, the Upadhi through which we manifest, and therefore we are not able to recognize our true self, which is not a problem for Ishvara as explained in this verse. Our next class, which will be on the 19th, we will be another 6 verses from the 4th chapter. And you have very popular verses like Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya Glanir Bhavati Bharata, Paritranaya Sadhu Nam, all those verses about the avatara which will come in the next class. We will conclude today's class by the chanting of the first 6 verses of the 4th chapter by Aruna. Over to you, Aruna.
Hari Om. Atha Chaturthodhyayaha Dhyana Karma Sannyasa Yogaha Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Yoktavanaham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshva Kave Bravit Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajarshyo Viduhu Sakale Neha Mahata Yogo Nashta Parantapa Sa Evayam Mayatedya Yoga Prokta Puratanaha Bhattosi Me Sakha Cheti Rahasyam Hetuduttamam Arjuna Uvacha Aparam Bhavato Janma परं जन्म विवस्वतः कथमेतद्विजानीयां त्वमादौ प्रोक्तवानिति। श्रीभगवानुवाच बहूनि मे व्यतीतानि जन्मानि तव चार्जुन तान्यहं वेद सर्वाणि न त्वं वेत्थ परन्तप। अजोऽपि सन्नव्ययात्मा भूतानामीश्वरोऽपि सन् प्रकृतिं स्वामधिष्ठाय सम्भवाम्यात्ममायया। हरि ओम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम।
We have come to the end of a very nice class wherein the Leela or the magic of Vidvat Sannyasa or Jnana Karma Sannyasa was introduced. The Gita Parampara, its greatness and Sanatanata was explained. The perennial Gita Jnana Ganga, which is timeless and eternal, was mentioned yet again. Arjuna gets the wisdom as he asked for it with devotion. Arjuna questions the legacy that Krishna is talking of. Puraprokta, as he had heard, how is it that you were there from time immemorial? Shlokas 5 to 8, Krishna here answers, and the reasons for the birth of an avatara, which was very well termed as a rain-bearing cloud, was understood. The nature of avatara, the Yogamaya Ajaha, was known in the 6th verse. Thanks to all the speakers and to Srimati Arunaji, and special thanks to Dr. Hegde for the wonderful class. We shall meet again on the 19th, Monday, for the 22nd session for the next set of verses from the 4th chapter. Thank you once again. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.